think that is up. That's live. Where am I? What's our time? Couple of minutes. Where is that link? West Australian. Where's Burgos on? Dean Burgess. Here he is. All right. Cool. 1 minute. I'll wait till it's 4:30 and then I'll just start anyway. Don't need that. Close that. Close that. And that. Andrew Hastie, eh? Where are we? 4:30. All right, 4:30 now. We'll just start it because I don't know if people jump on, they'll jump on. All right, kia ora, g'day, welcome back. I got sent through this request to do a reaction to this. I've actually done a video on it already, but that'll go up a little bit later on. But it's just been bugging me actually. The more I think about it, and then I've seen Dean Burgess's reel or story on Facebook, which I think is now also on Instagram. So I'll probably play that one as well. But I'm going to jump into, let's go here, share. Where is it? Yep, that's the one. So, actually, let me see it. Sorry, I'll see if anybody's actually in the live, in case there's somebody is. Yeah, it's showing 2 people. Christian, looking forward to this one. Hey, mate, see you're there. Okay, cool. It might just be you and one other, you and me, maybe. But anyway, people can have a look later on. So here's the article. There's some stuff in here which I know I haven't. So it's got there in the title, 4 Squadron. So inside the SAS feud, driving Ben Roberts-Smith war crimes allegations and secret 4 Squadron investigation. I know I haven't spoken about 4 Squadron. It didn't used to be called 4 Squadron during my time, or maybe it was, but it was 4 Squadron was typically reserved for the wives, and there was a different name that 4 Squadron, or what I presume is now known as 4 Squadron, used to be known by. But yeah, obviously that's out and about and in the media, and maybe it's been out for a while. I'm pretty sure I haven't mentioned it in the past or on any other reactions. But anyway, there it is. So from Aaron Patrick, let's scroll down and get into it. So on a spring morning, 2018, Ben Roberts-Smith walked into the lobby of Canberra's East Hotel, known as the Frat House because of its popularity with out-of-town male politicians. Waiting for him was an old colleague from the Special Air Services Regiment, the man who Robert Smith came to suspect was wearing a listening device. Ordered a long, whatever that is, macchiato or whatever. Mr. Robert Smith asked for an English breakfast tea. So setting the scene here, it must just be these 2 guys, must just be RS and whoever this former colleague is. The Victoria Cross awardee was there to save his reputation. The other man, Sergeant A, would help destroy it. So Sergeant A, aka Ballbag person A, or just Ballbag in general, whoever this person is, Sergeant. So he's clearly been around and been in the unit for a while. He's with the now, I think I read later on is with 4 Squadron, but I don't think it doesn't mention that yet. I don't think I knew that until later on as I read, and then I see the rest of the Jealousy Boys Club and 4 Squadron who have a bee in their bonnet seemingly about RS and maybe in regards to 2 Squadron overall. But anyway, this ball bag would look to try to help destroy RS's, and is likely still trying to help destroy RS's reputation. The 2 men represented a Fisher whatever that means, FISSURE, in the elite regiment, with many of Robert Smith's other detractors. Sergeant A or Ballbag had joined the SAS Espionage Wing 4 Squadron. So again, I didn't realise that they would that there was news out there about 4 Squadron, but clearly there is now, so it doesn't really matter if I mention anything. But I probably still won't go into much anyway, even with the bits and pieces that I'd heard of. I'd not served in what is now known as 4 Squadron anyway. I never served there during my time. Along with then Captain Andrew Hastie, now Liberal MP. So this part I was assuming, and it sounds like this little weasel Hastie was in 4 Squadron as well, it seems like. He became part of a campaign to expose alleged abuses during the long war in Afghanistan, including what they claimed were the execution of prisoners. So him becoming part of a campaign, again, I've constantly said it almost in every reaction that I've done. Why didn't this twat Hastie say anything whilst he was in the regiment? He was in there for a few years, from what I understand. Troop commander, so he's at least a captain. Why didn't he bring anything up then? If all of these things were happening during his time, why wait till you're out, go into Parliament House, and then basically throw the regiment under the bus? And that probably is a pattern of behaviour that we can see, which Dean Burgess calls out in his little Facebook reel, talking about the pattern of behaviour with what it seems to be Andrew Hastie. Now that guy's conniving behind Angus Taylor's back, having secret meetings with other members of the Liberal Party, it seems to try to be voted in as the head of the opposition Blinken Liberal Party or whatever it is. So me in Australia, fellas need to do some work, quick, smart, and hopefully you don't vote for that twat. But clearly he must have the gift of the gab, and he's able to convince people to side with him, I guess. Hastie, that is, I'm talking about. Anyway, execution of prisoners. Mr. Robert Smith and his closest friends were mostly members of 2 Squadron, an assault unit that won the Army's bloodiest battle of the war, the 2010 Battle of Tizak. The victory earned the SAS its first battle honours, placing them in the pantheon of Special Forces operators. Over time, the 2 Squadron soldiers would be driven out of the Army, forced to find civilian work or live on military pensions. Pretty crazy, eh? You've got all these soldiers, these warriors that have deployed multiple times to Afghanistan, won what it says here, the first battle honours, placing them in the pantheon of Special Forces operators. And what's his name? Anus Campbell or something, or Anus Bell, or something like that. Whoever he is, disbanding, I think it says in here, I think it might be Campbell, disbands 2 Squadron from the regiment on allegations. No, at that time, from what I assume, no charges had been laid, no arrests had been made, no trial had happened, and there were no convictions. But somehow the powers that be and or the government and those that supported the decision disbanded a whole squadron, a squadron that's been going backwards and forwards in and out of Afghanistan under the direction of the government and the heads of Defence Force, kicking backsides over there, clearly through the works that they've done and the battle honours which they've been recognised with, doing a fantastic job by all accounts, and then they just get disbanded. And they are then forced to, leave, find civilian jobs, or live on a pension. It's pretty disgusting behaviour in terms of what has happened there from that perspective, just in that piece alone. The men from 4 Squadron would be protected and promoted, including those who broke military rules by briefing journalists about their colleagues. Far out. I do think I started laughing at this point as well when I did the reaction to it earlier today. It's scheduled and uploaded. Obviously, the reaction will be a little bit different to this in the live. I don't know if there's comments coming through in the live. Let me just have a look. It doesn't look like it, which is good for me, actually. Then I can just try and keep my thoughts in one space as I go through this one. But how unsurprising is that, eh? Like, these guys from 4 Squadron were protected and promoted. It's pretty mad, eh? Like, in terms of that seems to be how things work out in the real world. Even you see it in governments and other organizations where it seems like the criminals get away with it and get promoted and get pay rises, while the workers, the people on the ground, the people actually doing the job, doing the door kicking, removing bad players off the board, then become targeted and then become demonized, and then those same cowards hiding in the background get anonymity and immunity and all that sort of stuff for what sounds like broke military rules by briefing journalists about their colleagues. So they actually, it's saying here, they broke rules. And we'll hear a bit about that later on. It's quite funny, some of the responses. Who broke rules and, nothing happens to them. It's like, and when I say, examples of that happening, you just look at the, what's his name, Paul Brereton, did a reaction to that or a live to that not that long ago on a write-up done by The Yarn. That guy resigned from his post at the National Corruption and something or whatever it is, National Anti-Corruption Corporation or something like that. Resigned. He has been investigated, has resigned, and so therefore some female justice or whatever it is has said, they won't be continuing with the investigation because it would cost too much. Pretty nuts, eh? I spoke about that in my reaction. You can spend over 300 million plus get an extra 40, 50 million top up to help you with the OSI investigation into war crimes, but you won't investigate this twat Paul Brereton for potential corruption in regards to his role whilst being there in his role, which was the inaugural role, from what I understand, for that type of position and that appointment. Does it sound like something suspect there to the rest of Australia? I don't know. I'd like to think it would. I'd like to think that the Aussies are smarter than to think that there's nothing dodgy going on about that. But anyway, let's back to this. Where are we? Battle honours, military pensions, protected, promoted. The conflict between the two squadrons, one designed for combat and the other for spying, became a driving force behind the allegations, inquiries, and media coverage that almost ripped the storied regiment apart. So, from what I've reacted to and some of the hearing stuff and what I've heard in other cases, guys from 2 Squadron, RS's squadron at the time, there were several guys that got basically booted because they weren't up to scratch. And Scott Jones does a great job of talking about that on Sam Bamford's Two Worlds Collide podcast. So go over and check that out if you haven't already. I'm in the middle of doing a reaction video to that because when I did a live to it, it's been blocked and I got issued with a copyright notice. So trying it a little bit differently and doing reactions to it that way instead. So as I read this, I started to think, man, did they just boot all the unsuitable or not fit for purpose, not fit for warfighting operations with 2 Squadron or in a Sabre Squadron to 4 Squadron? Because from what I read in here, 4 Squadron wasn't going in and out of Afghanistan, not in combat roles anyway. So it's just like, is that where, well, without trying to be disrespectful, I'm sure to other guys that were good operators and good warfighters in 4 Squadron, is that where they sent some of the dead weight to 4 Squadron? The little jealousy boy band, I call them, over RS, that is. Anyway, let's carry on down. Look at that twat there. And why they're covering whoever else's faces on the side, who knows? On that unusually warm morning at Canberra at the Frat House, Mr. Robert Smith reached out across the squadrons for help. He had found out 10 days earlier that Fairfax Media, his nemesis, intended to try to prove in court that he executed or ordered the execution of 5 unarmed prisoners and civilians in Afghanistan between 2009 and 2012. Mr. Robert Smith knew that Sergeant A, so here, when we've got here, reached out across the squadrons for help. I'm assuming like this is well after RS is already out of the regiment. So these allegations, from what I gather, only come about once RS has left the regiment completely. So these cowards didn't have any integrity or professionalism or blanking character to raise these while RS was still serving, it seems. They also didn't raise it to any other hierarchy, from what I can gather. I've not heard at any time Andrew Hastie, Ballbag Hastie, or the Sergeant A, who apparently went on to a documentary with that twat Dick McKenzie in 2019. I've never heard any of those guys say that they escalated it up through their chain of command. Like if there was something as serious as that, you'd like to think that you escalate that through your chain of command. You go to, so if he's a sergeant, go to your troop sergeant, your troop commander. So there's a sergeant there and a captain. If you get nothing, go to your squadron SSM, who's usually a WO2. If you get nothing, go to your squadron OC, who's a major. If you're still getting nothing, you start pumping that thing up even higher. You probably go to the RSM, then to the CO. Maybe there's a couple of other levels or rank structures or hierarchical positions within there, but sooner or later you get to the CO if you're not getting the support or inquiry or investigation that you believe is warranted based on your concerns and or allegations and or indeed witnessing, if you're witnessing that sort of stuff. So what it's taken however many years after RS is out by this stage for those things to then come about, sort of gives an insight into the weak character and integrity, in my opinion, of those individuals who didn't have the guts or the balls to speak up and say anything sooner. You know what I mean? So yeah, people may disagree with that. And that's fine. They're allowed to do that. But if these things are so serious, happened back in 2009, 10, 11, and 12 over a 4-year period while you're in, why are you not saying anything? Why are you not doing anything? Why have you waited until he's gone and then brought it up? 2009, he's not even a VC winner. So if they're happening that early, you can't say it's, he's the face of the Australian Defence Force. He's a Victoria Cross recipient who can't do anything to cause any damage to that. He hasn't won the Victoria Cross in 2009. I think it was actually the person who sent me this, Christian over there in Perth. I think it's 2010 during the Battle of Tizak is when he earns the Victoria Cross. Whether or not he receives it in 2010, I'm not sure either. Maybe he received it in 2011 or maybe he still received it in 2010. Either way, it was during that Battle of Tizak, which I think is mentioned already or comes up later on in this article. But 4 years, man, like you little rodents aren't saying and or doing anything during that time. And if you are saying something, other than having your own little meetings, which we'll get to as I read through this, why are you stopping there? Why are you not escalating it higher? Rewind that back even further. Why have you done nothing in country where these supposed war crimes took place? Why did you do nothing immediately at the time? I've read through and you'll see one of the excuses in this article. So why did you do nothing at the time? Why then did you do nothing once you got back to base camp? So you've extracted off target back to base camp. Why do you not bring it up then? Why do you not bring it up during the patrol debriefing? Why do you not bring it up, say, 12 hours or 24 hours after? Worst case, say you needed to get your ducks in a row and you wanted to be really clear and you wanted to speak with other members of the patrol, etc., before you all came together. Worst case, 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, just to cross the T's and dot the I's, but that would still be in country and you still bring it up sooner rather than later, within a reasonable amount of time. Not years later. Like, what is wrong with these guys? In my head, that's what's going on in my head anyway. Are these the same guys that got booted from 2 Squadron because they allowed an enemy person to roll up through their OP, because they didn't take all the right equipment for their weapon and their main gun had a stoppage? Like, are these people that were identified early on as not being suitable for the type of operations that they were going to be doing in Afghanistan, so they then got booted? Seems like they got passed on to 4 Squadron and holding some level of resentment towards RS and, dare I say, jealousy, based on what I've read as we go through this article anyway. Anyway, I'm probably digressing maybe a little bit too much, but let's carry on. I'm probably going to be like that throughout this, and I think I may have been like that during the reaction that I did. Anyway, Mr. Robert Smith knew that Sergeant A could help prove or disprove the accusation. He ordered an Afghan man shot in 2012 in a compound where Taliban weapons had just been found hidden in a wall cavity. So you find Taliban weapons hidden in a wall cavity of the supposed innocent farmers who have nothing to do with the Taliban. Hard case, eh? Mr. Robert Smith murder trial already looks like a security nightmare for the Defence Force. Probably a bit of an understatement, I guess. In addition to thousands of classified documents, it will likely have to share with Mr. Robert Smith and his civilian lawyers. The case will bring unwanted attention to members of Force Squadron. Oh, well, they're the clowns that brought it up in the first place. Whoever this little boy band is in Force Squadron that has decided to bring these things up years after the fact, well, then that's your own fault, isn't it? I guess they're probably not too concerned because they've managed to weasel their way into getting immunity and I assume anonymity as a result of that. Again, gives me an insight into, I guess, the caliber and the integrity of these individuals and the gutless approach in which they've taken and chosen to take in regards to what they're bringing up against Ben Robert Smith. When Sergeant Ballbag met with Robert Smith after earlier holding a clandestine meeting with two of the journalists pursuing him, so Sergeant Ballbag had a secret meeting with two journalists pursuing him. He was a member of an agency so secret few people outside the intelligence services had heard of it. Well, it's not that secret anymore, eh? You've got in here Swan Island and everything you're talking about in here. So based in Canberra, the Joint Interagency Liaison Officer is charged with planning some of the most sensitive work in the whole government. Soldiers from Force Squadron work alongside officials from the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation and the Australian Secret Intelligence Service, the AFP, and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, according to military sources. The agency's classified work includes responding to terrorist attacks at home, planning rescue operations of Australians taken overseas, and getting diplomatic staff out of war zones, the sources said. Not so classified these days, eh? Alpha male culture. Within the SAS, Force Squadron was a state secret. So, I've not seen or come across as much information as what I've read in this article, just basically outing Force Squadron. Like I said, it wasn't... During my time, I don't recall it being like Force Squadron was typically reserved for the wives, for the wives of the unit. And what seems to be now known as Force Squadron was referred to by another name. And so I won't worry about talking about that here, although it probably doesn't matter even if I did. But anyway, it was referred to by another name, and Force Squadron was reserved for the wives. Maybe they decided maybe they decided they need to switch the name because of all the drama that's happening. So maybe we'll call what used to be called something else Force Squadron instead of reserving that for the wives. Who knows? Anyway, the government has never disclosed its function, but SAS veterans and a few published reports, okay, so there must be a few published reports, say it provides military muscle for intelligence officers on foreign assignments. SA soldiers train... I think when I was going through this, I was just in a bit of a roll. I said, SA soldiers train at an ISIS facility in Swan Island. So not ISIS, ASIS, Australian Security and Intelligence Services in Swan Island on Victoria's Bellarine Peninsula, which can only be accessed by a single road or sea. Yeah, so, you know, there's plenty of likely other countries friendly and not friendly that likely already have an understanding and an idea about that anyway. But there would probably would have been a number of Australians, general public, that likely wouldn't have known anything about it until now. Well, not now, but, you know, obviously whenever this article was done and people talking about it. Since it adopted the Force Squadron name around 2006. So that's why I mentioned during my time it was referred to by another name. Force Squadron was reserved for the wives, or used in relation to when talking about the wives. The unit has only sporadically appeared in the press. One embarrassing example is a 2013 incident in Kabul when SA soldiers and ASIS officers were drinking at a barbecue. A drunken soldier waved a pistol at an ASIS officer he would later describe as a flirt, according to a report by the ABC. I just thought that was stupid. And it's got here, they were both sent home almost immediately, which is good. So whoever those twats were, whoever those ball bags were that decided to do that, like, car keats, bros, see you later. During the war, the squadron became an experiment in equal opportunity. About 3 or 4 female soldiers were transferred into the squadron from elsewhere in the army, according to 2 SAS sources. So who are these people just blinking, breaking the rules, going and talking to the media about 4 Squadron? Who are they? Like, are they part of the same group that have been protected and promoted? Like, is that what the units come to these days, or is that just reserved for those that get to 4 Squadron? It's crazy, man. Crazy to me. Anyway, Special Operations Command, which oversees the SAS and other Special Forces units, believed male and female couples would be less conspicuous on undercover operations than pairs of muscular men, the sources said. That made me laugh. I was like, aren't there plenty of gay bodybuilders? Mind you, not that I observed many bodybuilder types within the regiment, but you know what I mean. Like, but I suppose having a female can be less conspicuous for undercover operations. The women did not undergo the grueling SAS entrance trials known as selection, which meant they couldn't be assigned to the regiment permanently. After about 5 years, the experiment was abandoned for reasons that have never been made public, according to the sources. Well, that's probably just a matter of time, eh? Probably just a matter of time before those reasons become public, I guess, much like how 4 Squadron and Swan Island and everything else has been talked about in this article. Because of its non-combat role, 4 Squadron was never sent to Afghanistan as a group on combat operations, according to an SAS source. Again, I would have thought, so they were referred to by a different name during my time. In Iraq, we had members from what they're referring to here as 4 Squadron on probably some slight, obviously they would have had some different orders and mission sets for what they were doing, but they were in country with us at the time. Sometimes obviously towards the rear, part of a squadron HQ element. They weren't necessarily at the front of the push or at the front of our AO or area of operations in regards to the areas that we had to go to, but we did have the guys there from 4 Squadron that were out and about and that would eventually RV with, whether it was a part of a troop RV or a squadron RV or whatever. So, yeah, interesting when I read this that they weren't, what did it say? 4 Squadron was never sent to Afghanistan as a group on. So I think they would have been sent to Afghanistan, but probably not on the types of operations and kinetic jobs that the squadrons were doing at the time. But members of the squadron working with the Australian Security and Intelligence Services in the country would sometimes join other squadrons on missions. He said, yeah, okay, so that does make sense. Excuse me. That included 2 Squadron, which had an aggressive reputation even by SAS standards. Excuse me. I'm not sure what they mean by that. And I'm not sure who's giving that perspective that 2 Squadron had an aggressive reputation even by SAS standards. 2 Squadron's success hunting down Taliban leaders reinforced the power of its sergeants and corporals who led 5 or 6 man teams known as patrols. These battle-hardened non-commissioned officers pushed back against interference from their officers who often had less warfare experience. And that part's interesting, eh? I mean, let me just read this other part too. So 2 Squadron were known in the regiment for patrol commanders running their own strike plans and kicking everyone out of those orders, Mr. Hastie said in 2022. So that's coming from Mr. Hastie. So what did you do about it again, bros? You're a captain, a sergeant and a corporal and a trooper. Part of those teams are subordinate to you as a captain. Like, doesn't matter if you don't have as much operational experience as them or whatever. At the end of the day, there is still a hierarchy and a rank structure within the regiment, and those rules still apply. Like, so Mr. Hastie said this in 2022. It's got here. What were you saying back in 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, however long, whenever you're in there? I think 2013, I think it says in here is when they were pulling out anyway, or starting to pull out, whatever. Like, what did you say and or do back then? Never mind 2022, ballbag Hastie. Like, what did you do back then when you were seemingly made aware that this sort of stuff was happening and you've put here 2 Squadron? The other part of this, when you're talking about not just Andrew Hastie, but when it's talking about aggressive reputation, even by SAS standards, you've got here 2 Squadron, this article's got 2 Squadron success in hunting down Taliban. If I remember correctly, Scott Jones, talking on the Two Worlds Collide podcast with Sam Bamford, talks about, I think, some of their KPIs that were implemented. Part of that was measuring or recording how many Taliban, Al Qaeda insurgents had been eliminated, basically, how many had been killed. That was used as a measure of success for how their deployment was, how their patrol was going, how their deployments went. So those KPIs would not have been made up by troopers, corporals, or sergeants on the ground going out and doing the job. It would have been formulated, concocted, thought of by higher ups that have gone, yeah, how do we measure? How do we know how well we're doing? How do we measure that? And then we're going, oh, yeah, by this, the number of bad people that we eliminate off the board within the country or on these operations, on these jobs. How else? So how else do we measure that? Well, we have kill capture, listening to the words of that, kill capture missions and targets that they were sent on. Not capture first, kill capture missions. You've heard Mark Wales talk about it. I think you've, to a degree, maybe you've heard Harry Moffat talk a little bit about it. You've heard Scott Jones definitely talk about it. The ROE 429 Alpha, which was an offensive ROE, they're going out on jobs to kill first or capture the enemy. Like, you know, that's those decisions and stuff that are made on the battleground in the moment. But by rights and under the ROE that they were working to, everybody or people in that target pack or within the areas were playing an active threat, or at all times were an active threat. Words to that effect anyway. And then you have these KPI metrics, and then it almost seems like, oh, gee, they're quite aggressive, which had an aggressive reputation even by SAS standards. It's like, mate, how can you be patting them on the back, saying, what a good job, great work, well done, in one hand, and then when all is said and done, and they've done those things based on the intelligence provided, based on the ROE, the offensive ROE that they've given, based on the KPIs that have been set by higher levels, not by the sergeants, not by the corporals, not by the troopers, and then all of a sudden act like, oh, that's a bad thing. Like, that's not a good thing to do. And we'll get to that when the Blinken disbandment part of 2 Squadron is spoken about in this article. Where are we? And if 2 Squadron were known in the regiment for patrol commanders running their own strike plans and kicking everyone out of those orders, Mr. Hastie said, what are those other troop commanders doing about it? What is the SSM Squadron Sergeant Major doing about it? What is the Squadron OC doing about it? You can't tell me they were doing nothing about it. And you can't tell me, therefore, that the sergeants and the corporals just said, stuff you to the captains, and just completely ignored them and went out and did their own thing. If they did, then there should definitely be more heads rolling than just the corporals and the sergeants and the troopers on the ground. It should be those weak leaders who didn't have any bolos to say anything about it and or do anything about it to stop that stuff from happening before it carried on, or before it even started, not carried on. You know what I mean? So 2 Squadron's alpha male culture was epitomized by the company's informal mascot, the prosthetic leg of a suspect insurgent man killed allegedly in an execution in 2009. The leg became a popular drinking vessel at the SAS bar in Tarancot, the Fat Lady's Arms, and was shipped home to the SAS headquarters in Perth, where it was mounted, framed, and dubbed Das Boot. Das Boot. Das Boot. Yeah, I see how they've got allegedly in there in brackets, which is good. The leg became, yeah, and I've seen photos and stuff of that guys appearing to be consuming what I presume to be alcohol out of the prosthetic leg. 2 Squadrons alpha male culture. Does a prosthetic leg and guys having a drink out of it indicate, what'd you say, an alpha male culture? I don't know. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like it. Like, I don't even drink, but that doesn't seem like a alpha male culture. Seems like, you know, some guys likely been out on a heck of a number of jobs, been in contacts pretty much every patrol they've been out on, risking their lives every time they're going out, been involved in a heck of a lot of stuff, seen some of their mates getting shot up, and sadly some of their mates getting killed. And when they have some of the wins that they had, you know, they try to find a way to decompress and release some stress and maybe have a bit of a laugh in the process. And if that's deemed as a alpha male culture, uh, because of that, because of the lads trying to decompress in their own way, still reasonably sensibly, they might do some and or say some silly stuff from time to time. Who hasn't? But they're still they understand where they are and they understand the need to be good to go for the jobs the next day. And when guys are there in country, they don't want to not be going out on a job the next day or whenever they're required to, because that's the whole reason that they're there. Nobody wants to be known as that guy that deploys overseas but never goes outside the wire, never deploys because I don't know, they were bloody light duties or rolled their ankle or something or had a tummy bug or something like that. And last thing that they're going to do is get that blind drunk that they can't carry on. Now, I can't speak for the guys that decided to pull their pistols out and wave those around. They got sent home, as they should have, the bloody twats. But yeah, the vast majority, when the guys deploy, like they want to be out there doing the work, not stuck back at a forward operating base. Anyway, rumors and factions. As the war entered its second decade, some members of the regiment felt two squadrons' fight against the insurgency had become too bloody. As the war entered its second decade, some members of the regiment felt two squadrons fight against the insurgency had become too bloody. Okay, so who are those members? Who are those members of the regiment that felt that two squadrons fight against the insurgency had become too bloody? What did they do about it? All well and good to say some members of the regiment. Who are they? What did they do? Who did they report it to? And what happened as a result? I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think those are unreasonable questions to ask. It's trying to find out, like, the media and everybody is gunning hard as they can, in my opinion, for RS and Oliver Schultz. Let's not forget about him in this whole process. I don't know where things stand with him at the moment, in terms of, is he going to trial? Like, he was charged and arrested, I don't know how many years ago, but years before RS's one, if I remember correctly. Nothing's happened. He hasn't been convicted. He's not in prison, as far as I'm aware. And all going well, he'll be found not guilty as well. So, but here we've got two guys, whereby the media, seems like the government, seems like the ADF, definitely the prosecutions, the AFP, all of these, they're not small organizations, like they're strong, powerful organizations that have the ability to do a lot of damage. Gunning after these two. I don't know what Oliver Schultz was. I don't know if he was a trooper or a corporal. But RS was a corporal. That's these two guys here. Nobody else is in the picture. Nobody else is in the crosshairs for the Office of the Special Investigator. Nobody else, which is just mind-blowing to me. Like, if these things are true, it would seem like there's a massive amount of people covering their backsides, and it's probably been aided. I think, well, not probably. It appears to me it's been aided and abetted by the Brereton report, whereby it exempts those from the rank of major or whatever it is and higher from being looked into, or is it captain and higher? Somebody will be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But from whatever rank structure that he's deemed to not need to be investigated because they didn't have adequate command and control or leadership or whatever, or oversight, is pretty piss poor. And you can't tell me that is a fair and just process if they are genuinely looking to find out if the allegations of war crimes are true. There's a whole bunch of rubbish in that stuff, which was the catalyst leading up to that, which Scott Jones again talks about in the Sam Bamford Two Worlds Collide podcast. There were allegations that SASR members had cut the throats of children, put them into body bags, which they'd carried with them out on patrols apparently, and then threw them in the river. So putting bodies of children whose throats had been cut by SASR members and put into a flotation device and then whacked in the river so that they can just float along and then be found. Those apparent allegations were proven to be false, but who started them? Like, where did they come from in the first place? Who started those allegations, which seems like was part of the catalyst to further investigations into war crime allegations? It's just, there's so much that just seems to be unanswered. And I don't know how much is like rumors or factions, like what I'm reading here in this article. but there must be some truth to it, and it must have originated from somewhere. So where did it come from in that sense, especially with those young children and stuff? And what happens to those guys? So you can just start a rumor, which is apparently proven to be false and lies, and then just nothing happens. You know what I mean? Just yeah, it's crazy to me. Anyway, where are we? Rumors spread that after the shooting stopped, team leaders had ordered prisoners executed, both by newly arrived Australians and Afghan government soldiers under their command. So when they're saying both by newly arrived Australians, are they talking about newly badged SASR operators? Because that's probably the part that's been spoken about in the defamation case and stuff as well that RS brought against the media, which he lost that one. But, the war is far from over. And it's got here, and Afghan government soldiers under their command. So that part there, if there have been Afghan government soldiers under the command of Australian Special Forces, in this case SASR, surely the prosecution and people can go grab those Afghan government soldiers and bring them in to testify, can't they? I mean, they've already grabbed 3 local villages from a known Taliban stronghold based on the intelligence that was given to RS and his team. And they managed to bring those or get those 3 to give testimony against RS in his defamation trial. So surely it would be easy to find the Afghan government soldiers who are alleged to have been ordered by, I presume, RS to shoot unarmed prisoners at that stage. You'd think that would be easy for them to be able to find those ones. I haven't heard anything about that. Maybe prosecution's saving that as an ace up their sleeve to go, ta-da, here they are, the Afghan government soldiers that were there under your command, and you ordered Blinken, Habib and Habibi and Ahmed and Abdul and whatever else to execute these people. But you would think it would be easy to get those people, right? Like, if you can find local villages in a known Taliban stronghold and you can get them to give testimony against Australian soldiers and against RS, surely you can find these ones. And even then, if it wasn't, so that's if it was true, you'd think that you'd be able to find these Afghan soldiers. Even if it wasn't true, Taliban's taken back control over Afghan, you'd think they would easily be able to volunteer some supposed Afghan or Taliban people that were Afghan government soldiers at the time to testify against RS. And maybe that's what the prosecution's doing. Maybe that's what the media's doing with all their connections and reaching out because they're that corrupt or whatever. But you would think, I would have thought it would be easy to find these Afghan government soldiers who had supposedly been given these orders to execute unarmed prisoners. The regiment began to split into warring factions. Several of Mr. Robert Smith's detractors transferred to 4 Squadron. So again, when I read that, I was thinking, oh, are these the twats that were deemed too useless to serve in 2 Squadron? And they got the ass over to 4 Squadron. They shifted them on, where they could avoid the multiple deployments to Afghanistan that were financially lucrative but tough on their bodies, their families' lives, and in some cases, their spirits. Oh, that's sad. Like, I mean, that's what you join the unit for, right? Like, I mean, you join the unit because you know the type of work, or you should have a bit of an idea of the type of work that you're going to be expected to do. And if it's not for you, like if it's having that much of a strain on your spirit, on your family, on your life, on your bodies, well then, like, get out, put in your papers and go, yeah, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Not stay there and have a whinge and a moan, get basically what sounds like a lifeline. Okay, too useless for 2 Squadron, piss off over to 4 Squadron, and do your work there, and then have a sook and a moan and go, oh, I want to still do this. Like, if it's that hard on you, bro, and if you're not performing, you're lucky that you got the lifeline in the first place. I'm taking some license there. I don't know if that is the case for them, but it's got here, Robert Smith's detractors transferred to 4 Squadron. I don't know if that means they chose to transfer or if they had no choice and got told, you're going to 4 Squadron. You know what I mean? So anyway, only those guys know about it. I choose to call them what I've called them without having all of the information or the facts. I acknowledge that. So, but if they ever want to correct me and have a chat and go, hey, you're completely wrong, blah, 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 then I'm here for it. I'm here to be told and happy to sit down with them if it's wrong And if that isn't the case, if they're not the guys that were useless or deemed useless and not to stay in 2 Squadron because they were a liability and they got sent to 4 Squadron, if that's not those guys, then cool. Feel free to correct me, brothers. Australian combat operations in Afghanistan stopped in October 2013 when then Prime Minister Tony Abbott declared at the Army's base in southern Afghanistan, Australia's longest war is ending. Okay, so Hastie mentioned stuff in 2022, October 2013, because I don't know when things started to wind back fully and the regiment came out of there. I thought the regiment didn't come out until, geez, I thought maybe 2017 or 18, something like that. But maybe it was 2013. Anyway, Tony Abbott is ending. The fighting with the Taliban was over. The war inside the SAS was intensifying. Yeah. Within 4 Squadron, the nucleus of what might be called the BRS opposition had established itself. The nucleus of the BRS opposition. Among the most senior was Mr. Hastie, and I did have that thought when I was doing the reaction. I was thinking I probably wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Hastie was the ringleader of it, and it seems like he was. Among the most senior was Mr. Hastie. So Mr. Hastie, who, by his own words on various YouTube videos that have been done during the defamation case, and there's excerpts or whatever transcripts there of him, he didn't witness any war crimes. He's going off second, third-hand information and has not done anything about it. So apparently he's getting told about these things while he was in the regiment. What did he do about it? You'll see here. Sounds like he had little counselling sessions, little hearts-to-hearts at bloody various places, including one called Tulips. Bloody hell, sounds, and I say some other colourful language in the reaction that I did. But let's just get down and into this. Mr. Hastie, who had spent 5 days in Afghanistan in 2012 learning about the war. At the same time, Mr. Robert Smith was leading a team on missions to track down Taliban leaders. Don't forget, he was also trying to track down that bloody Hekmatullah, who murdered 3 Australian soldiers. So, yeah, Hastie, part of the little nucleus ringleader group at 4 Squadron, the anti-RS brigade, we call them, or the little jealousy boy band, we'll call them. Mr. Hastie became close to a sergeant known by the pseudonym Kenneth Barber, a military fitness instructor who joined the SAS in 2001. So if this person, Ballbag Barber, joined in 2001, obviously he's in there before myself and RS. So a couple of years before. If he joined in 2001 and got in, he's there at least a year or two before RS and I made it into the regiment. A history buff who fought in the Battle of Tizak. So he's a history buff. It's got here, a history buff who fought. So he fought in the Battle of Tizak. Okay. Sergeant Barber was convinced Mr. Robert Smith's Victoria Cross citation contained fabrications. Well, like, if there isn't a ballbag more jealous than this twat, Ballbag Barber, happy to speak to this guy and hear his take. Like, hit me, bro. Tell me what was fabricated about RS's Victoria Cross. The fact that he risked his life, that he charged a couple of gun pits, like leading the charge. The fact that he took out a couple of those, obviously with support. Patrol Commander played a part, and other guys. I think there's another guy as well that played a part to a degree who followed along closely behind. What parts are fabricated? Because it doesn't talk about it in here. Citation contained fabrications, and the corporal did not deserve the medal. I could understand, and I could 100% understand why this Ballbag Barber, Sergeant Ballbag Barber is what I'm going to call him, would not and does not want to show his face. Because who in their right mind is going to come out and call out Ben Roberts, Victoria Cross, Medal of Gallantry recipient, absolute warrior, and other guys have been on various podcasts and spoken about a lot of guys wouldn't be coming home if it wasn't for RS. There's no wonder this guy doesn't want to show his face. History buff? Bloody hell, I think he's some other sort of buff, bloody poofter. He would carry the resentment at what he saw as a deep injustice for more than a decade. So you're carrying that little Suki Baba vendetta jealousy inside for more than a decade. Like, it must just be eating him up that RS is recognised, that he is acknowledged, that he is respected, that he's received this award, the highest military honour in the Australian Defence Force, the Victoria Cross. Far out, this guy just sounds like a loser to me, to be dwelling on things for that long, to be saying that he didn't deserve the medal, to be saying that RS doesn't deserve the medal, and a deep injustice for more than a decade. Why didn't you speak up, bro? Did you speak up then when it was being made aware that he was going to be receiving the Victoria Cross? Like, you've been in a couple of years longer than RS. Did you speak up and say, no, that's not true? Oh man, just mind blowing to me. So when I have seen, and I think I've heard RS talk about it, these are built on nothing but lies and jealousy. When I read this, I was thinking, holy heck, no wonder RS has used those words, at least in interviews from what I've seen over the years. And this just, sort of paints a clearer picture for me. But I'd love to know who this ball bag is. In 4 Squadrons officers, Mr. Hastie and Sergeant Ballbag held long, emotional conversations about the war. Mr. Roberts, where's that information coming from? Is that coming from Mr. Hastie? Is it that twat Hastie? Is he the one sharing? We held long, emotional conversations. Maybe it's coming from this Ballbag Barber as well, because of what we'll read a little bit later on and going and disclosing information. Mr. Robert Smith and Weather 2 Squadron had crossed the line on the battlefield. So they're having long, emotional conversations about RS. Mr. Hastie, a committed Christian, described the talks as a form of counselling. Sounds like Ballbag Hastie, Twat Hastie, was acting as the unit's self-proclaimed padre. He'd go around and having little special one-to-one counselling talks with clowns like Barber, in and around just feeling butthurt that RS has received the Victoria Cross for his actions. Like, what is wrong with these guys? And the little 4 Squadron boy band, which has not, and as I read this, is not doing itself or the regiment any further favors as I read this. Like, 4 Squadron and the regiment as a whole will be blank and just, I don't know what they'll be thinking, man. I think they'll be extremely pissed off. They'll probably be even more pissed off with me doing a reaction speaking the way I am. So maybe, what's his name? Solly from over in the UK. Maybe my reaction to this might be what gets me PNG'd from the regiment. It's like, oh, yep, okay, and anyway, where are we? Evil, Mr. Hastie said in 2022, they discussed, we all have to deal with it. You all have to deal with it in 2022? Bruz, why didn't you deal with it if this evil was happening way back when you were serving as a troop commander in charge of troops? Why didn't you deal with it back then? Why didn't you do something about it back then? Instead of going off having your little long, emotional, heart-to-heart conversations with one of these twats, and I assume the others, why didn't you band together like a bloody little group of poofters that you are and then go and do something about it? Yep, hey, you fought at the Battle of Tizak, Barber, so clearly you must have some curry about you and other guys and stuff that have probably fought in those places too. But if you can show that courage to go do that, why can't you, at the same time, show the courage to address the supposed war crime allegations that you're pointing the finger at RS of having committed until years after the fact? Like, so if you're butt hurt by me calling you a little boy band group of poofters, you shouldn't have you should have done something about it way back then. Anyway, I believe at the time I was trying to let him know that you can't change the world yourself. You can't be the single person here. Who's this? Is this twat Hastie talking to Ballbag Barber about this, trying to give him counselling advice as the self-proclaimed regiment padre? You can't change the world yourself. You can't be the single person here. Go in public. The headstrong sergeant didn't take the advice. Okay, so it must have been Padre Hastie trying to give Ballbag Barber the advice, and then the sergeant didn't take the advice. In December 2015, he met independent journalist Chris Masters at a restaurant in Canberra. So 2015, Like, so this, I'm pretty sure RS is out of the regiment by this stage. Like, I'm sure he's a few years out of the regiment at this time because this happens in 2015. So you've got enough courage to go to media, an independent journalist, Chris Masters, this ball bag sergeant. Again, my question, if he did, I'd love to know who. Did he raise it with anyone else other than Padre Hastie in his concerns for what he believed to be war crimes in Afghanistan during his time of service? Did he do that? And if he did, who did he report them to? Other than Padre Hastie, who clearly did stuff all. He didn't do anything till he got to Parliament and then had a little dummy spit in Parliament around what he believed to be a toxic culture within the regiment. That guy, man. Australia, if you guys vote for the Liberals and you vote for Andrew Hastie, you only have yourselves to blame, right? You have only got yourselves to blame. Same with the seat in Canning that I think he holds in Perth. If you vote him in, like, you reap what you sow, man. So if you vote him in, that's what you get. Over dinner and drinks, he repeated a secondhand story that Mr. Robert Smith kicked an Afghan man, Ali Jan, off a cliff in 2012 in the village of Darwan and had him shot. So this ballbag Sergeant Twat Barber is giving a secondhand story to an independent media. So he's not a witness, hasn't seen it, giving a secondhand story. And so he's helping add fuel to the fire and just this smoking gun that is building and building, which RS is likely none the wiser of. That all this stuff is happening because none of these poofters had any curry about them to bring anything up whilst RS was in the unit, let alone whilst they were in country. They couldn't do it before he had a Victoria Cross. They couldn't do it while he had a Victoria Cross. They couldn't do it, well, and they chose to do it after he's gone from and out of the unit. It's just nuts to me, man. Mr. Robert Smith, who was in Darwan hunting an Afghan government soldier who had killed 3 Australians, that blinking twat Matula, denied kicking anyone off a cliff or ordering any executions. Photographs of the site would show the cliff was a river embankment. Sergeant Ballbag would later say he believed he had tacit permission from the Defence Force to share information about Mr. Robert Smith with Mr. Masters. What does tacit mean? Is that how you even say it? T-A-C-I-T? Ballbag Barber, now in 4 Squadron, the spying part of the regiment, believed that he had permission, whatever that word is, tacit permission from the Defence Force to share information about Mr. Robert Smith. Let me look that up. Tacit. While I'm here. Tacit. Understood or implied without being stated. Okay. A fancy way of saying he thought he had permission, but he didn't have actual confirmation. Where are we? To share information about Mr. Robert Smith with Mr. Masters. I don't know who he's been talking to. Maybe it was Padre Hastie who gave him this implied permission that he had, or that he had this permission to go and speak with the media. Maybe that's what Padre Hastie, part of his self-appointed job was, to give that impression that my subordinates, this Sergeant Ballbag in this case, who would have been a subordinate to Captain Hastie, has implied permission to go and speak to the media about RS. That just sounds like a whole crock of you-know-what as well. When I rang the defence media up, they did not say to me, be careful what you talk about. Don't talk about classified information and don't talk about possible war crimes, he said in court in 2022. You're a sergeant, bruz. You were a sergeant in the regiment, and they didn't tell me to be careful what I talk about. They didn't say don't talk about classified information, don't talk about possible war crimes. So you thought, I must be all right then. I must be good to go. I can talk about potential war crimes from a second-hand perspective, even though I didn't see them and even though I wasn't there. You must have just thought, yeah, this is all right. This would be a good one. Far out. I'll be protected and I'll be promoted in the process. And that's probably what happened to this clown. Ballbag Barber. Sergeant Ballbag Barber. Who the hell are you, bruz? Even though I say that on here in the hopes that some of the lads from the regiment, I know there's guys there from the regiment that still, like, from time to time see my stuff on social media. Maybe one of them will send me a message. I won't call them out individually if they, unless they're a complete twat. Then I probably will. But yeah, hard case, man. At the same time, I don't think this person will ever come out and say anything for fear of being identified for the ball bag that he is. Like, tacit. I thought I had permission. I had tacit permission from the Defence Force. You and Hastie having your little heart-to-heart, long emotional conversations about the war in Afghanistan. He said in court in 2022, even though he was a member of 4 Squadron, he would also be assigned to the Joint Interagency Liaison Office, according to another SAS source. Sergeant Ballbag agreed to appear on 960 Minutes program in 2019 and talk about Mr. Robert Smith. His identity cloaked, he repeated the Darwan allegation to Mr. Masters' collaborator, Dick McKenzie. At the time of the 60 Minutes interview, the allegations were being investigated by a New South Wales judge, Paul Brereton, on behalf of the Inspector General of the Australian Defence Force. I think that's what the acronym they use is the IGADF, which oversees military justice. Justice Brereton, blinking, that's another ball bag if you've ever seen one. That twat Brereton had started work in 2016. The same guy who resigned from his post, and now apparently the investigation into some of the alleged corruption that he may have been involved in has now been dropped. Taxpayers have funded and paid for all of that stuff already, or a lot of the preliminary stuff. The preliminary findings aren't being made open to the public based on what I read in the yarn and the live reaction that I did to that. And seems like, maybe it's that level of hierarchy or rank structure in the military. If you're a certain rank, you are exempt from being investigated. Seems like you can be part of a national anti-corruption organization in the inaugural role which Brereton had in Australia, come under suspicion and start being investigated for alleged, I suppose, corruption, and then you can resign and all the investigation and query into your alleged corruption stuff that you've been doing can be dropped because it would cost too much. How does that not apply to RS and or Oliver Schultz? Like, they're not in the army anymore. They resigned. They left the regiment. But you can still pump over $300 million into an investigation into these lads. And however many others are still on the list that are still sitting around uncertain, like what's happening, what's going on, who have likely done nothing wrong as well. It's, like double standards and all that sort of stuff just sort of spring to mind as I read through this. His report would not be published until 2020. Ballbag Barber did not seek permission from the army to appear on the show, but was allowed to remain in the SAS despite breaching military rules that strictly limit contact with journalists. Far out. I feel for the regiment, man, over there. I feel for the SASR as I read this article, and I just think to myself, you're not painting a very good picture for yourselves if these things are true. Like, this ball bag has been allowed to basically do whatever he wants, have anonymity, receive immunity, I suppose, or I presume, for certain things, and can basically just go run his mouth to the media while he's still serving in the unit, and no repercussions are happening. Is allowed to remain in the SAS despite breaching military rules that strictly limit contact with journalists. He's probably got top secret or an even higher classification of secrecy as well. Is he going to be the next, what's this fella's name? Assange? WikiLeaks? That should be this fella's nickname. Oh, WikiLeaks. What's he got here? I'm not proud of it. However, I can't say I regret it. Sergeant Ballbag said in court in 2022, I wouldn't do it again. Oh, that's nice. You wouldn't do it again. Maybe that's why you're allowed to stay in the regiment, because you gave that assurance to the regiment. Don't worry, lads. I won't do it again. I wouldn't do that again. Far out. Doesn't go well. Doesn't look well for the regiment. I feel sorry for them. Like, I can't help but laugh because this guy is just blinking having a giraffe. He's making just getting his own way with everything, it seems like. Sergeant Ballbag wasn't at Darwan. He was told the cliff story by a private of Mr. Robert Smith's team in Tizak, who had also swapped from 2 Squadron to 4 Squadron. So if it's another one of those operators that was in 2 Squadron was deemed not suitable for the type of work that 2 Squadron was doing or the other Sabre Squadrons were doing and got the ask to 4 Squadron, he's probably got some resentment as well. The private disliked Mr. Robert Smith. Oh, ta-da! And resented that he had to wait 3 years to receive a medal for his bravery in the battle, according to evidence he gave in court. Holy heck. That must have been some of the behind closed door stuff, because some of the transcript stuff that I got sent by Christian over in Perth talks about this guy being questioned. You were upset that why didn't you get a Victoria Cross? And he spun some BS line about, oh, it's not for me, it's for my kids, for my children. It's like, bro, how does that help your children? Oh, so they know what I did or what they did. Bro, just tell them. And or enough, like if you're close enough with the lads, like people will talk about that. Like your children probably sound that young that they probably don't have any idea. It won't be until much later on anyway. If it's the same guy, that is. And if it's the same guy, I think the guy got a Medal of Gallantry. So what if you got that 3 years later? So what if you got it 10 years later? Like at the end of the day, I think I've spoken about in other reactions. If it's that guy, what he did was blanking courageous as, brave as heck. Like he was still there at the coalface, blanking feeling the heat from the enemy and dishing it back. You know what I mean? So the automatic respect and trust that he would have had from his brothers, from his team, in my opinion, should have been, I would have thought would have been enough for him, but clearly not. So he wanted more. So he may not be one of the guys that got booted to 4 Squadron, or maybe he was. Who knows? We will probably never know, because I don't know if they'll ever have the courage to show their faces and to talk about it. Like I would love to sit down and talk with them, and I can refrain from calling him names. Like if he wanted to have that opportunity, if there was ever an opportunity to sit down, talk with him, and just go through, bro, well, talk me through, man. What happened? Yeah, you feel this way. Cool. What did you do about it? What did you do about it back in 2009, 10, 11, 12? What did you do while RS was still in? And then just get a better understanding. Did you just have these long emotional talks with Padre Hastie or what? Where are we? Another member of the Tizak assault team had also moved across to 4 Squadron. As I read this, I couldn't help but think, man, is 4 Squadron the place where they're just giving the ass to people that can't do the job and those in the Sabre Squadron? Like, what is going on here? Anyway, another member of the Tizak assault team had also moved across to 4 Squadron, a scout. He resented that a Star of Gallantry, the second-ranked bravery decoration, had been awarded to the patrol commander, to the team sergeant, a close friend of Mr. Robert Smith. So I know who that person is, the patrol commander who received that. Obviously, for that award, his information doesn't get disclosed out into the general public, unlike for a Victoria Cross, which you've seen Mark Donaldson, Ben Robert Smith, and Daniel Kieran or Daniel Kerrigan. Apologies if I've got his surname wrong. Obviously, Cameron Beard, rest in peace to that fella. So actually, I think I was wrong. In another reaction that I did, I said I think there were 3 VCs, so there would have been 4 Victoria Crosses during the Global War on Terror for Australian troops during that period of time, because I've done a reaction to him too, but yeah, I bloody forgot about Cam, who received his obviously posthumously after giving his life during battle over there as part of 2 Commando. But coming back to here, 3 years, yeah, so what? You got a medal. Another member moved across, so this person resented the fact that the patrol commander, I almost said his name then, resented the fact that the patrol commander for RS's team received the Star of Gallantry, the second highest award. I think that's equivalent to the UK's Conspicuous Gallantry Cross. I might be wrong in that. I think the CGC is the UK's second highest. I think. Don't quote me on it. And I think Jamie Pinnell here in NZ has got New Zealand's second highest award as well. Star of Gallantry as well, I think, for New Zealand, or the New Zealand Star of Gallantry, something like that. Or Gallantry Cross, something like that. Anyway, this guy has got issues with the patrol commander receiving that. The scout, who was also a private, confronted the sergeant about the official record of the Battle of Tizak. Okay, so you confronted the sergeant. Good on you. It credited the sergeant with saving the team's 6 men, including Mr. Robert Smith, by throwing a grenade at a Taliban machine gun nest. Okay. The explosion either killed or stunned one of the machine gunners, allowing Mr. Robert Smith to charge in and kill everyone left alive. The act recognised with the Victoria Cross for Australia. Awesome, right? So he's in contact. The sergeant, patrol commander, pulls a grenade, lobs it in, either kills or stuns at least one of the machine gunners. RS goes and cleans up the rest. Awesome. I said to him, so this is the guy who resents the patrol commander. I said to him, the scout said in court, he told the sergeant, I don't believe it really was, mate. I don't believe it really was, mate. You didn't know where the grenade was going. You had no idea where you were throwing that. Show some humility. What does that even mean? Like, what is this guy that's gone across the 4th Squadron? What does that even mean? What is he saying to the patrol commander? The scout said in court, he told the sergeant. So you imagine I'm talking to the patrol commander. Bro, Sarge. And he says, I don't believe it really was, mate. You didn't know where the grenade was going. You had no idea where you were throwing that. Show some humility. What is he talking about? Does he know something? Did the grenade land in the vicinity of where RS then went in and tuned up everybody else or not? Because in the heat of the chaos that I can't even imagine properly what they must have been going through, clearly he had enough wits about him, the patrol commander, to go, I'm going to throw a grenade into the direction of and in the vicinity of where I think that gun is coming from. Might not be able to directly see it because, heaven forbid, I don't want to really put my head up and look straight at it and have the barrel pointing straight at me and then get my head blown to bits. So I reckon I can see roughly where it is. And I reckon that's about where my grenade needs to go. And he's weighing up everything else. He can see where his other team members are. And he's trying to give them a bit of a heads up. Hey, I'm going to throw this grenade into there. Wait until it goes off, either using comms or whatever else he's got on, plus the verbal and audible. Pulls the pin, throws a grenade in the direction, I presume, and it must have landed roughly in the direction or pretty much bang on for RS to be able to go in and then take care of the rest, which sounds like what's happened. I haven't heard him say anywhere in there what didn't happen. He's saying, I don't believe it really was. You didn't know where the grenade was going. So did you see where the grenade went? Did you know where the grenade was going? Did you, like this person that's disgruntled with the sergeant, the patrol commander, for receiving the Gallantry Star? Is that what it was? Star of Gallantry. Show some humility. Like what does that rubbish statement even mean? What is he talking about? Sharing info at Tulips. So here we go. That's a bloody suspect name if ever I heard one. Even though Sergeant Ballbag was a 2 Squadron member in 2010, he missed the Battle of Tizak. I wonder why. Well, I wonder why he was in 2 Squadron in 2010, but he missed the Battle of Tizak. Interesting. Why did you miss it, bro? There's a question. There's another question I'd love to ask you. The army refused to send him to Afghanistan because he had stored photographs from, I forgot about this, from military operations on a personal hard drive. Was it really, though? Hey, Albanese, did he, though? Did he really, though? Was it really, though? On operations personal hard drive, which his estranged wife discovered and used to blackmail him, he said. That part, I believe, is true. What I was having a dig at with the Albanese, did she, though? Did she really, though? Was in regards to, is that the reason why he didn't get sent to Afghanistan? Because of that? Or was it something else? I don't know. Anyway, where are we? Transferred to 4 Squadron, Sergeant Ballbag found a supporter in Mr. Hastie. Of course. all the bloody little boy band useless twats all got together, formed a little group, and started singing bloody kumbaya to each other, who called him a very good guy. In early 2018, Sergeant Ballbag met Masters and the journalist twice in Canberra. Oh, isn't that sweet? Sergeant Ballbag later said he chose to meet at a place called Tulips. That is a that is a very gay name if ever I've heard one. In terms of Sergeant Ballbag later said he chose to meet at a place called Tulips at 7:30 a.m. Google lists one such venue in Canberra, Tulips Cafe, in the suburb of whatever that place is, Pialago. Pialago? That sounds bloody gay as well. Located on a semi-rural back street. Semi-rural back street. They can punching in the back doors, I reckon, of each other, both those bloody two. Back street near Canberra Airport. Unlike the frat house, it was a discreet place. Bloody hell. All the homosexual connotations associated with this Tulips, uh, what is it? Semi-rural back street, discreet place to share information. Share information. Anyway, I digress. Hopefully it puts a smile on your face, though. It did mine. At the cafe, Sergeant Ballbag talked about a mission in October 2012 at the Chinatu district, about 100 kilometres northeast of the SAS's base in southern Afghanistan. As soldiers in a team commanded by the then Corporal Robert Smith were searching a mud brick compound, they discovered an AK-47 assault rifle, bullets, and rocket-propelled grenades hidden in a wall cavity. There you go. But they're just innocent farmers. Like, we got an intel pack, target pack, kill capture mission, go to this place. We suspect some bad dudes, and we may find some contraband, let's call it, or things like this that the Taliban and Al Qaeda and insurgents can use to kill coalition forces. But they are likely just farmers, innocent farmers, just there. And I don't know how those weapons got there and embedded and hidden away in this mud wall cavity. That's a surprise to me. In the aftermath of the discovery, Mr. Robert Smith told an Afghan government soldier to shoot an Afghan man present in the compound, Sergeant Ballbag alleged in court. Okay, so again, that should be simple enough to find the Afghan government soldier, should it not? Like, there must be records. There would be records of all the Afghan government soldiers that were vetted, just like Hikmatullah was, that were screened and deemed suitable to come and serve as part of the Afghan government, just like Hikmatullah was. And therefore, they should have a record of who these Afghan soldiers were, government soldiers were, that was ordered to shoot an unarmed person. They must have a record of who these Afghan soldiers were that went out on tasks and patrols with RS and his team. Bring them to the party. By his own account, Sergeant Ballbag did not try to stop what he described as an execution, did not file a complaint or tell anyone in authority. He had to wait till years later before he managed to pluck up the courage to do any of that. Don't know why, it just is what it is. I was perplexed but didn't say anything, Sergeant Ballbag said in court. We were like close to extraction. That's all right then. You were close to extraction, so that's why you said nothing about what you perceived to be a potential murder was about to take place, because you were like close to extraction and you were perplexed. You were a little bit confused, but you can see clearly now. This is just nuts. Sergeant Ballbag said he then jogged to an open area where helicopters were going to land and return them to their base. He said he saw a visibly unhappy senior sergeant from 2 Squadron who was responsible for prisoners. Hang on. So this Ballbag, who was perplexed, didn't say anything because they were like close to extraction, jogged over to where they're going to get extracted, looks back, sees a visibly upset sergeant from 2 Squadron who was in charge of prisoners. Do you reckon that there might be, what does a visibly upset squadron member look like that's just been involved in a whole bunch of fighting? What does that look like? Does it look any different to somebody who's just got a frown on their face, like just walking, thinking about other stuff? Does it look any different? You know what I mean? Just in terms of like day to day, like what I was perplexed. Sergeant and Joel, so 2 Squadron responsible, a visibly unhappy senior sergeant. What made him look so visibly unhappy? Was he throwing his hands up? Was he talking to somebody? Was he having an argument with somebody? Or was he just like, I've been accused of, like, why am I so grumpy when I'd be sitting in my office at work, like just doing work either in the lounge or at my desk? And people have looked at me and like, bro, is everything all right? Nothing's wrong. Like, I'm not unhappy. I'm just doing my work. And if I happen to look unhappy to somebody else, well, they should look somewhere else. So, man, this just, I don't know, just seems like, again, people trying to build stuff up to make this picture and this narrative against RS. He said he saw a visibly unhappy senior sergeant from 2 Squadron who was responsible for prisoners. Headquarters had been notified that 3 or 4 possible insurgents had been captured, according to Sergeant A, or Sergeant Ballbag. In military terminology, they were known as pucks, or person under confinement or control. The puck count has already gone in, and the helos are coming in, the senior sergeant said, according to Sergeant Ballbag. Only 2 prisoners are available for the helicopter ride. It is unclear if any numerical puck disparity was questioned by 2 squadrons' commanders. Check radio logs or records, like, are they going to speak to those people? Is that true? Or is this just old Sergeant Ballbag, like, making an assumption that another member of 2 Squadron is upset because of his visual observation and looking at him? And has he just used that to somehow cleverly distract from the fact that he said nothing when he witnessed what he believes was an execution, because he was perplexed and because they were, like, close to extraction? Like, seemed like pretty piss weak excuses to me, from this guy. And I don't know. It just doesn't sound credible to me anyway. Where are we? So yeah, we don't know if there was any disparity questioned by 2 Squadron commanders. Was it brought up by this twat once he got back? Like I said, once you got back for the debriefing, patrol debrief, 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours at best, if you need to get together with your little blinking boy band and go, oh, that wasn't right, and this, that, and the other, and let's put this in. Did any of that happen? Who did you escalate it to? Seems like nobody. You just waited till years after the fact, and then apparently you've got this crystal clear recollection of all this stuff that allegedly happened. Defense were aware of what was happening, he said in court when asked if he sought permission to brief the media about military operations. So defense was and were aware of what was happening. Okay, who in the defense was aware? Who were they? Or did you just take that as tacit, whatever it is, tacit permission? Did you just assume, like you did when you spoke to the media, you just assumed that you had the permission because, I don't know, because Padre Hastie spoke with you and you had a close, long, emotional conversation about it, about evil? Who were these other Defence Force members that you're saying knew about what was happening? This just seems crazy to me, bro. The Defence Department did not respond to a request to comment about 4 Squadron's role or tensions within the SAS during and after the war. That's all well and good. Well, clearly somebody's spoken about it because here it is in the West Australian right now. Mr. Robert Smith has denied killing prisoners or ordering anyone to. I categorically deny all of these allegations, he said on April 19th. I'm proud of my service in Afghanistan while I was there. I always acted within my values, my training, and within the rules of engagement. So yeah, I've heard him say those words as well. The winner, 6 years after the Chinatu mission, apologies if I'm saying that wrong, Sergeant Ballbag and Mr. Robert Smith found themselves exchanging pleasantries at the East Hotel in Canberra. 6 years after exchanging pleasantries, Mr. Robert Smith had been given the evidence that would be used against him in his unsuccessful defamation lawsuit against Nine. It included a statement by Sergeant Ballbag about Chinatu that accused Mr. Robert Smith of ordering an execution. At the hotel, Mr. Robert Smith handed the sergeant a copy of the document and asked if he had accused him of having a man executed. I showed him effectively a redacted page with what was attributed to him, Mr. Robert Smith said in court. Shockingly to me, at the time, he said that's how he saw the events of the day unfold. Wow. This sounds like this is the only time when Sergeant Ballbag has had any courage to say anything to RS about how he viewed the events of that day. Not on the day, back when it should have taken place, not prior to it, if he thought that that's what was about to happen, not even within 24, 48, 72 hours, like still being in country. Years after the fact. Years and years after. It's just, like, again, I don't know how somebody like that with could be deemed as a credible witness, to me anyway. Sergeant Ballbag said he told Mr. Robert Smith 2012 was pretty loose, and come on, mate, you machine gunned that guy. You're on kill capture missions. They're on kill capture missions, as far as I'm aware. If they've detained somebody, and I've spoken about this in other reactions, if you've gone to the effort of detaining them, like, keep them alive by that stage, keep them alive, take them back, process, get whatever other intelligence and information you can get out of them. That's my take on it. Why go to the effort of doing an assault or a clearance, capture somebody, and then just shoot them? Like, just shoot them in the process as they're going through on their kill capture mission. Like, that to me makes more sense, rather than capturing somebody only to then shoot them and then just take back a couple of others, So anyway, that's my thoughts on that part. After the conversation petered out, Sergeant Ballbag stood up and said, "Thanks for the coffee," and walked away. Mr. Robert Smith paid for the whatever that twat ordered. So old Ballbag didn't even have the courtesy to pay for his own brew. Left that on RS. Just what a petty little rat and weasel this guy sounds like. A sergeant. 2001 he joined. After, sounds like being a PTI. What a prick. What a prick. Sergeant Ballbag is not one of the 4 veterans granted immunity. Okay, great. From murder charges in return for testifying against Mr. Robert Smith. So what's his name then? Maybe we'll get to see his face. The former soldier, so he's not even serving anymore, has not been charged over the alleged incident in Chinatu, which is one of the 5 counts of the war crime of murder against Mr. Robert Smith. So he's not charged with anything. From what he says, he just basically stood by and watched it happen because he was perplexed, and they were like close to extraction. Lawyers involved say the case will take years to reach a trial. If it reaches a trial, who knows? As for the Battle of the Squadrons, it was resoundingly won by 4 Squadron. Hurry up. In 2020, the Chief of the Defence Force, former SAS officer Angus Campbell, decided to abolish 2 Squadron after the official inquiry concluded. Australian soldiers were responsible for the deaths of 39 Afghans. So hang on, I probably missed that in my reaction. Angus Campbell decided to disband or abolish 2 Squadron after the official inquiry concluded. So it's an inquiry concluded Australian soldiers were responsible for the deaths of 39 Afghans. Innocent farmers with just hidden mud wall cavities full of AK-47s, ammunition, RPGs, etc. But they are, innocent farmers. The orders, the intelligence, the kill capture missions, the ROE 429 Alpha, all designed by leadership and hierarchy, filtered down to the troops to take out and implement and execute on the ground, which they did to great success. Given KPIs in terms of measuring how successful their operations were, which one of those realities, which I believe Scott Jones talks about in his interview with Sam Bamford on the Two Words Collide podcast, was the number of insurgents that were killed. Pats on the back, high fives, good work, well done, we're doing great here. All of a sudden, oh no, that's no good. You disband a squadron after an inquiry. Yeah, an official inquiry is concluded, but there is, again, no charges laid, no trial, no convictions, and you've disbanded one of the most successful and highly decorated squadrons within SASR. The work that they've done, you just disbanded it. Gone, yep, no, we can't have you guys operating anymore. We're disbanding yous because of this inquiry, which has not proven anything. There's been no convictions, no trial, no charges. It's all allegations. Nothing's proven. Like, who makes that decision, and who is the spineless government leader, as well as the ADF? Well, clearly we know it's Anus Campbell here, who just, for whatever reason, maybe he's just been given the license as the Chief of Defence Force at the time to just annihilate or strike from the history book, so to speak, 2 Squadron without any challenge or anything from anybody in regards to, these are just allegations. This is an inquiry. It's allegations. Nothing's proven. Nobody has stood up to this person and even questioned it. Doesn't seem like they've just let it run its course. It's going, oh yeah, that's the Defence Force thing. Just let them do what they want to do. It is, it's crazy to me to think that that has just been allowed to happen. Not just, like, obviously it's happened a while ago, but that has been allowed to happen and take place without seemingly no resistance. No wonder the guys felt so let down. No wonder the guys felt like nobody had their back, no hierarchy. No wonder Mark Wales has come out and said, the deal is we will risk our lives. You guys have our backs when we come back home. Man, I've shared it recently before. Why would anybody want to go and serve in the regiment? I don't know. These days, like, reading through this, it's yeah, I'll be honest, it's pretty heartbreaking actually to read that sort of stuff, the way that they're going after RS Oliver Schultz, and just reading through this. Bloody, it seems like a bit of a comedy, to be honest. Some of it, or half of it. Some 2 Squadron veterans believe they are still being pursued by the Office of the Special Investigator. They likely are, and if they aren't, the OSI likely hasn't informed them that they're no longer being investigated. They're just going to leave that and leave it hanging over their heads so that they have no idea until such time as they go and ask themselves. Because, as it's got here, which has been allocated 300 million from defence funding to investigate veterans, because they don't have enough money in that 300 million from defence funding to allocate somebody from an administrative perspective to reach out to the 50 odd people and go, hey, just letting you know, you're no longer being investigated anymore. We've closed the file out on you, blah, 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 after doing some confirmations. Can you come in, sign whatever piece of paperwork that we need, or, get it checked, whatever, sign it, return it, and then that will be done. $300 million doesn't allow for some sort of good communication or positive communication to keep the soldiers who are being investigated of war crimes up to date with how that's progressing. There's just, we can't find anybody for that, and we don't have the budget for it. Give them an extra 40, 50 million, whatever it is, and they still can't. It's pretty disgraceful, eh? Like, from my perspective, as I read this, sorry. Some officers who were members of 2 Squadron or oversaw the unit had decorations revoked. Was that after the Brereton report said people from this certain rank structure can't be investigated because they didn't have adequate oversight or leadership? And so were those officers awarded leadership and oversight awards, but because of that and their ability to be exempt from being investigated, they then did what's it called? What's it called when they backdated something, like they did with the war crimes allegation stuff? Retrospective. They then go retrospective and go, actually, sorry, mate, we have to revoke those medals because we actually said you're exempt from being, because you didn't have adequate oversight. So it doesn't look good if we give you a medal for exceptional leadership, and at the same time we say you're exempt from exemption because you didn't have good oversight of what was happening. It's just a bloody bit of a comedy, eh? There should be a skit done about this. Where's Paul Hogan when you need him? That fella's always good at doing skits. Mr. Hastie, the opposition industry spokesman, did not respond to questions about his involvement in the case. There's a little twat, Padre Hastie. Mr. Robert Smith is a former executive at the 7 Television Network, which is part of the same company as the Nightly. So that's that. That's that, eh? Let's stop sharing that. How long did I bloody yap on there? Over an hour and a half. Look at that. Where are we? Let's just see some comments on here. Tom Logan. Hey, Joe. How you doing, mate? All good. Springer, you're excellent at what you're doing, cuz. Thank you. So I wonder if the female engagement team is still part of the NZSAS. Possibly. Craig, Anya, Joe. Tom, it kind of reminds me of the Heston Russell story. So sad people fabricate evidence to create a fake story. Yeah, I agree, man, especially with the stuff with Heston Russell. I said ball bag Baggins. Ball bag man. Jason said after calling ball bag Barber a pufter, he might have the courage to step forward. Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to speak with these guys, man, and just, bro, tell me, bro, tell me straight. Why did you do nothing back then? Why did you do nothing in country? Like going back 2009, he's not a Victoria Cross winner. He's probably not even a patrol commander at that stage in 2009. Maybe a lance corporal. And what did you do? Why didn't you do anything? 6 snubs. Stopping by, brother, to show some love. Thank you. 6 snipes. So 3. Cherry, he has the second highest in war, a medal awarded to him. Hard Kiwi he is. Oh yeah, well that must have been when I was talking about Jamie Pinnell. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool, eh? William Keith, hello from Queensland. Same back at you. DMC, Palmy, Cherry Silent. What's this? I was to ask how recent the information is, but now I see. Yeah, just fairly recent. What did I see? 10th? Was it 10th of this month? Hang on, let me come back up. 10th of July, Friday, 10th of July, 2026. Yep. Sorry, just playing catch up. What measures are there to prevent such things in war? What is the aftermath? Cause exprobation or something? What measures are there to prevent such things in war? Well, part of the training, like there's no specific, like there isn't a course, or there wasn't during my time on war crimes. Like it wasn't a course that you did to whilst you're in the regiment or anywhere within the military. It's just part of the training that I guess is instilled with you to be acting with professionalism, integrity, acting within the rules of engagement that you are provided, and the level of training and instruction that you receive. We are also signatories to the Geneva Convention. So parts of those things, although I don't remember all the training and stuff in and around that, there were discussions and stuff and some lectures, I suppose you'd say, but there's no like specific course. The other parts of that come down to, by and large, my take is just personal accountability and your own moral compass, your own values, which Aris has spoken about, that he operated and worked within his value set, etc., and within the rules of engagement. So if you were to see somebody doing something that, and it's no different to training. So if you see somebody doing something wrong in training, you call it out. Or if you see something that's missed something in training, say whether it's parachuting, say whether it's use of vehicles, say whether it's doing CQB, using live rounds, ammunition, etc., whatever, use of explosives for MOE, like the list goes on and on. You call that out. Go, mate, you haven't done this, you need to do that. Or why did you do that? Or sometimes things do get missed in training as well, and on operations too. And then if you don't see it until after, then that's what the debriefs are always for, like to talk about that stuff and go through it. So the conversations, at least the ones that I recall that I was involved in training and then in Iraq, were pretty robust and good. They were healthy, like no BS, straight to the point, because that was the quickest way to get better, to get the information, rather than fluffing around, worrying about somebody's feelings. Like there is no intent to try to hurt your feelings here. We just need to understand why you didn't do that. Like what happened? Talk us through it. Okay, cool. You stuffed up. Yeah, we need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Needs to be more onto the ball, whatever. War crime stuff. Like, man, if you've seen something, like I've not witnessed that, so I can't speak with any sort of authenticity other than, what I'd like to think I would do, and what I like to think most soldiers, if not all soldiers, would look to do if they were witnessing something like a war crime about to take place and or a war crime happening. And if maybe you're like this ball bag sergeant that was on here that was a bit perplexed, that felt a little bit like, oh, we're nearly at extraction time now. I would have liked to have thought that, okay, benefit of the doubt, okay, go back, you extracted, you're back in your forward operating base, back in base camp. deservicing, get your kit sorted out, rebomb up your ammunition, check your gear, kit and equipment, etc. Fresh batteries, do all of that sort of stuff. Get some water, get some rations, whatever, make sure everything's good to go so that if something happens, you can just tool back up and get back out on it and go again. Once you've done that and the dust is settling a little bit, like you're going to have debrief times. You're going to have your patrol get together, run through stuff, and you've got time to start talking through what happened because that was typically what happened. You talk through the task, the job, blah blah blah. Anything that we saw that you maybe weren't happy with, how things could be improved, etc. So they're like, why was there nothing done all those years ago? Like, if these things are true, they're pretty horrendous, right? Like, if that takes place, I know that there are people that sit on the line of there are no rules in war, and you do what you like, but that's not the way Australia, New Zealand, and I like to think US troops, UK troops, all that sort of stuff. Like, that's not the way we're trained. You're not trained to go, okay, it's war, so you just have at it, do whatever you want. Maybe contrary to popular belief of what people may think. You're trained differently within those countries, and you're taught to have certain levels of respect in regards to what the parameters are when you go out and you deploy. That's just the way it is. I've never worked to a 429 Alpha ROE. That offensive ROE that they were working on, the kill capture ROE. I've never worked to one of those, but hearing it, like, it sounds, obviously it's very different to what it used to be, or not what it used to be, to what I've worked under. Even when we were in Iraq, we didn't have a ROE 429 Alpha. So that aspect and that element of it, we lent on our training to fit in with regards to what we believed we were allowed to do, which was, if we identified WMDs, we were going to call in airstrikes on them to destroy them. If we couldn't get air assets and there was a potential imminent threat, then we would need to take action, direct action, to eliminate those WMDs. As we know, well, nobody found any. So that's why we were tooled up with certain resources and equipment to be able to carry that out. But the first port of call, if we identified WMDs, was blinking our STS guy, American Attachment Special Tactics Squadron, forward air controller, was going to call an aircraft and blink and bomb the heck out of that WMD platform or platforms. So, yeah, these guys and what they were working under, what they were doing, and to your question around what measures are there to prevent such things in war, a lot of that, and it may not be a good enough answer, but a lot of that, my take, comes down to the training and the individuals that make up those units. Obviously, it's a mixed bag of people that get into the unit. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a one mindset fits all. Hence why the unit, the SAS, recruits from Army, Navy, Air Force, and even civilian street. So there's obviously processes for that, and they've got to go through and meet the requirements and go through selection processes and all that sort of thing. But the unit, the SAS, is very open to broad and diverse experiences, faiths even. So there are Christians within the regiment. There are people that are non-Christians. There are people that are atheists. So again, when I say is a mixed bag of people, the regiment does have a mixed bag of people for those, because there's a lot of benefit in that. Different thinking in and around, and looking at how you approach things, a whole bunch of positive things for it. And it's proven that over the years. So that level of training and what happens, you like to think that that's a major part of the prevention, preferably the prevention to your question around trying to prevent things like that. What is the aftermath? Oh, I would have thought that it's not a case of probation. Like, if you're calling somebody out for war crimes and it's happened within that, like within the period of time within it's happened, not years after the fact, and that's proven, that person's not on probation. Like, they're out of there. Like, and then whatever happens, whatever process of the legal structure that goes to is where it goes to. I don't know where that would go to next, but it wouldn't be a probation. not for a war crime or something like that. It wouldn't be like, oh, get a little slap on the wrist and go sit in timeout for a little bit and then come back. Similarly, my understanding and experiences were in NZ and Australia that even once you made it into the regiment, if you were not performing up to the standard required, you didn't get sent to another squadron. You got RTU'd. You got returned to unit. Like, car keets, bruz, see you later. Go back to the unit that you came from. That was what was always known. Whether or not that was true, that's what was definitely known and spoke about. So the conversations and the talk was often, it's harder to stay in the unit once you get there than it is to earn your way to get there in the first place. Words to that effect, anyway. So that daily renewable contract and the need to continually perform. You can have some bad moments, like mistakes happen. That's in anything. And so they've got reasonable approaches to that sort of stuff. But if you are constantly showing that you're not up to scratch with regards to the work that's required, well then, yeah, the word on the street was, at least during my time, that you're getting RTU'd and like, you're no good here, bro. See you later. So yeah, if guys were just getting bounced and moved to another squadron, and I'm making some assumptions there based on other stuff that I've heard and other reactions that I've done too, that those guys just seem to be like an exodus from 2 squadron into 4 squadron. So I've taken some license there and used some assumptions. Like, yeah, I don't know why you would shift if somebody is unable to perform the job of what they're supposed to be there to do. I don't see and or understand why a unit keeps them. You know what I mean? Yep, you've invested a heck of a lot of money in the individual, training wise, and all that sort of stuff. And at the time, they met the requirements and they were good to go. But for whatever reason, either the standard has slipped or the drive has slipped. The drive to be there may not be there anymore. Any number of things. Maybe there's some personal issues and stuff going on. But if you're not performing up to the standard, well, then I don't know why you get kept or left in there. Where are we? What you got here? Didn't they have eyes in the sky? Integrity. Don't know what. I have no idea what eyes in the sky they would have had for certain tasks. Maybe years later we'll see like Roberts Ridge and John Chapman. Maybe years later we'll see ISR footage and Predator drone footage of the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance footage that come out of John Chapman, Medal of Honor, rest in peace, his heroics, and not that blinking dirtbag Brit Slime Skambinsky, the blinking last fraud scout, I call him. I've got a reaction coming up on one of his interviews that he did, and I believe it's done before he realized and or before it was known that the ISR footage came out. And again, he's tooting his own horn, says very little about John Chapman, says nothing about his bravery, talks about how he was right in front and how he assaulted the bunker. So it's yeah, that didn't age well. I'm surprised it's still on YouTube actually, but I've just done a reaction to it, so that'll go up in a couple of days. Facts don't care about feelings when lives are potentially on the line. Yeah, 100%. Like, I agree with that, Billy. Great comment. Your lads' feelings will matter, but they will usually be solid. What's this? Your lads' feelings. Facts don't. So this must be in response to Billy's. Facts don't care about feelings when lives are potentially on the line. Might have been something I was reading out during that time. I might have missed it. But yeah, facts are facts, right? Like, and if those things are things that happen in terms of war crimes and that sort of stuff or not, then bloody bring that stuff up. Unless it's talking about guys being upset and resenting, 1, RS receiving a Victoria Cross, and 2, the patrol commander receiving the Gallantry Star, the second highest award. How about race-wise? Just curious, in the SAS HQ, which race is its overall race? You talking about ethnicity and that sort of stuff? Is that what that means? Just curious. What have you got here? What would be one thing in place of probation? My example, what would you pick? For what? For war crimes? For war crimes, there is nothing. Like, they get the ass and then they go face whatever consequences needs to happen next as part of the legal process. If you're talking about war crimes, like, there's no probation. Like, if that's see you later, bruz. Like, that's my take on that. That's if you're talking about if war crimes are something that's taken place. If you're talking about guys not being up to scratch in terms of performing, so I don't know what your questions in relation to, Cherry. then that's something a little bit different. Like there might be an opportunity to do some additional testing, training, or whatever for that person to get back up to scratch, and then they've got to maintain that. Which, like most things in the regiment, you've got to requal and show that you can do those things year in, year out, and multiple times during the year, even just in training. And when you're going out on the range, hence why they spend so much time repeating, doing a lot of the same stuff in different types of scenarios. Let me just come back to the other one though. Your other question: how about race wise? Are you talking about white people, black people, like different ethnicities in SASHQ? From that part, well, I just saw typical Australians in SASHQ. If they had some other sort of bloodline as part of them, which most let's be honest, most people do. I don't know what that would have been. Most of them looked fair, white Australians in HQ. Who was a CO, RSM, Toff, Vietnam vet, that fella? He had eyes that just like looked straight through you, I thought anyway. He's quite a scary fella, actually. When he'd be walking around, fellas, oh, that's the RSM. Like, try and look away, try not to make eye contact. Hard as nails, that fella, I reckon, anyway. What else is he? Yeah, like if you're talking about brown skin fellas in regimental headquarters, I don't remember seeing any. There may have been some. There were definitely a few brown skinned fellas in higher ranks, like sergeants and warrant officers and that sort of thing. But then, yeah, like I guess for me, not I guess, from my perspective, like that just didn't even come into it. Like you're there because you can do the job. You're there because you've got the time under your belt as well, and you've got the experience, and you've been able to show that through various stages, or they've been able to show that through various stages throughout their career. How about NZSAS? What do you mean? How about NZSAS? Is that in relation to race and stuff? Again, you got darkies and whiteys in the headquarters side of things. At least during my time, from what I saw on cycle, I can't speak to what it's like now exactly, but I would assume it's similar because there's a lot of Maori and non-Maori that are in the regiment over here. So you'll have a mix of people. I can't say that I saw. Just trying to think in Australia if I saw any. Well, I didn't know of any Aboriginal heritage operators within the unit. If they did have Aboriginal heritage, I don't know. They may have. There may have been blinking a whole bunch of them, which I just didn't know. It wasn't like we sat around and went, what's your heritage? It just wasn't same in NZ. It just wasn't one of those things. I think for a time there, I just saw every brown person, and I just thought every brown person when I was young growing up, I just thought everybody that was brown, I just thought was a Maori. Hello, turns out that old Tui Leilua who lived across the road from me as a young fellow was Samoan. So I had no idea, and I think he might have had Samoan and Tongan heritage. So yeah, I guess even when I got into the army, I saw other fellas. I then had by that stage in the New Zealand Army because I saw lots of Tongans, Samoans, Cook Islands, Maori, non-Maori in there. So by then I had a little bit more of an eye for seeing different heritages, cultures, that sort of thing, ethnicities, if that's what you want to call it. But from a job and working perspective, like it just never factored into the equation. Like I had non-Maori section commanders and 2ICs who to me were very good at their job. People like Clinton McGawn, he might have had some Maori heritage, but he was a an awesome soldier to me as far as I was concerned. He might have some Maori heritage in him, but I thought he was just a Pākehā, a non-Maori, not in a derogatory way or anything. He was my section commander for a period of time, or at least one of the senior corporals that I had there, and then we got shifted around. Then I had Maori NCOs and other non-Maori. So yeah, I don't know that comes into the equation for soldiers when they're serving. Don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I've got for you anyway. And I don't think there's. Did you ever partake in the NZSA selection? Yeah, I did so I passed the NZSA selection and the cycle, if that's what you're asking. Cherry D6Y5V. Just seen that question pop up then. When did that pop? Oh, that's because it only just popped up then. All right. I think that's about it. Anyway, that's my. I think the reaction that I did to that article is a lot shorter than what I just did on this live. But you'll see that in a few days. I was going to do this one, but what I'll maybe do is, if you see this guy here, Dean Burgess, give him a like, give him a follow. Ex 2 Commando operator, from what I understand. Does his homework on a lot of things. I think this one goes for about nearly 3 minutes. And I'll give you a bit of a taste, in terms of what he says at the start. Oh, I just muted it.
Looks like our mate Andrew Hastie is at it again. While us Aussies are getting hammered by cost of living, fuel shocks, and a government that's lost the plot, Andrew Hastie has just held a secret dinner at Molto Italian in Canberra to plot.
A secret dinner at Molto, not tulips this time? Is that this guy's MO? Secret dinners and communications, offering his padre advice, self-proclaimed, and having deep and meaningful and emotional conversations?
Their next move. 5 blokes, Garth Hamilton, Henry Pike, Cameron Caldwell, Rick Wilson, and Ben Small, are all backing Andrew Hastie. And then
is this the 4 Squadron boy band, Jealousy boy band turned Liberal Party? Is this the same crew they got together? They're all backing the Padre Hastie.
Master plan, they're calling it Operation Catapult. Now, for any of you history buffs out there, that's Churchill's old trick, destroying your own allies' fleet so it doesn't fall into the enemy's hands. These blokes want to do the same inside their own party, and they're preparing to sink none other than their leader, Angus Taylor.
Their fearless leader, Angus Taylor. They're like, oh, Car Keats, bruz, seems like you're about to be ousted, and your mate, the virus within, is the cancer within, we'd call him, is what I'll call him. Oh, this twat Hastie. Seems like a bit of a cancer, eh? Whatever he touches or whatever he's a part of, he looks to then try to destroy, and looks to try to do that from the inside out. Although he seemingly didn't really do that whilst he was in the regiment. He waited till he got out and was a member of parliament. And now he's gone on the attack of the regiment and the toxic culture and stuff that he claims was there, etc. And now he's about to undermine his fearless leader. What's his name? Taylor? Angus Taylor?
Now, if your pattern recognition is as good as mine, Hastie has already thrown Ben Roberts-Smith, a decorated SASR soldier, under the bus in that defamation case. Now he's going to do the same thing to Taylor. Different target, same move, strong words in the party room.
Same dick move is, I think, what Dean Burgess means, but he's uses better words than what I am.
Leaked quotes, and a fraction working behind the scenes to do them, and do them slowly. Taylor's already bleeding in the polls, ICAC circling his mates, and looking weak on One Nation. This civil war inside the Liberals is pure gold for Albanese and Labor. They don't even have to fight. They just sit back.
So then you can go on and listen to more of what he says there. He makes some really great points. Labor government will be happy about all of this because it takes the heat off them. Maybe this twat Hastie is a Labor insurgent rodent planted in the Liberal Party for the intent of distracting from Labor's blinking schmozzle of a government that they've got and driving Australia into the ground, while he undermines the Liberal government and has the Liberals worrying about One Nation and trying to drag them down, whereas One Nation is consistently saying, let's focus on Labor and getting that twat Albanese and the rest of his cronies out of power. But Angus Taylor is falling for the cancer that seems to be twat Hastie. Pretty nuts, man. But I'll stop sharing that. People can go and check out this guy Dean Burgess on Instagram and on Facebook, and check out his stuff on there. What's this? Christian Joe Sergeant Ballbag Barber is person 7. Oh, person 7. All right. I'll have to go back and have a bit of a listen. A bloody twat, that fella. Cherry, what tips do you have for a young buck wanting to join? Like advice, little things to work on. How young is young? How young are you, Cherry? How young is young buck? Go for it. I've got a few. I'll stick around on here for a bit. I'll give you a couple of minutes. How young is young? You want to Do you want to put your age or an age range? If you put down Blinken 7 to 12, I'm just going to not even bother. Dun, dun, dun. And there's plenty of Q&A stuff on my channel anyway. If you want to have a look around some of the stuff, you might find some answers on there. You might find stuff just by doing a search on YouTube. I'm 19. My cousin is 17. Okay, yeah, cool. Good age. A good age. So advice, make sure that it's something that you actually want to do. Plenty of people, and this is just my take from what I saw, there's been a large number of people that talk about wanting to do it just to see what it's like, just to, I want to see if I can pass selection. And if that's the sort of person that you are, like, cool, go for it. I don't recommend it personally. I from what I've seen, those that have a much stronger drive and those that see themselves serving in the unit before they even get there, and that is predominantly by and large, their sole focus, they tend to do a lot better because they're more wired in and locked in for the fact that this is going to be hard, that things are going to become very difficult and challenging, and I better have a strong reason as to why I want to be there before I step foot onto the start line. Something more substantial than I just want to see if I can pass. Like, I don't think that's a very good reason. But at the same time, depends on who you talk to. If that's how you're wired, then go and do that. Other things that you've got. So that's the first one that I'd say. Expect things to be hard. Practice doing hard things now. So I don't know where you're at, what you do as a 19 or 17-year-old. Sports, whether team sports or individual sports, are great things, but labouring type work is also a great thing, I found anyway, thanks to my mum. But labouring work definitely helped in many ways, from not only the boring and repetitive nature, the monotonous routine, the nature of the work, which was hard, and having a sore body and stuff at a young age, and then carrying that on, having some of that scarring transferred well into me then going into the army. If you're 19 or 17, like perfect age, I reckon, to be applying to the army. So if you have done that, great. If you haven't done that, I'd encourage you to do that, because that's where you're going to learn a lot of the basics in terms of what you'll need to do before going on selection. Or whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, like you might not want to go in the army, but if your plan is to go to the SAS, then you're going to end up in the army. So why not join the army first and get more of an insight into what that life is like? Heck, you might go on basic training and go, yeah, no, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And if basic training puts you off, then the SAS and the selection will definitely put you off. So, yeah, that would be my take on there. You'll learn a lot of the basics in and around soldiering, weapon handling, field craft, navigation, etc. Just teamwork, all those sorts of things. That's where you're going to get, I suppose, build a lot of your foundation to help you in your journey, Cherry. So you've got here, what tips are you wanting to join? If you're wanting to join from Civvy Street, reach out to we'll try to stay notified for any more of your content or briefings. All good. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. If you're looking to go from Civvy Street, contact the New Zealand Defence Force Recruitment Department, find out what the steps are. I don't know at what age, I don't know if they would allow a 19-year-old to join from Civvy Street, like to go through the process. That process has likely changed a lot now, so reaching out to the NZDF and speaking with the recruiters, or whatever the titles they have these days, they'll be able to give you the information that you would need to help you in your application process, as well as any prerequisites that would be required as well. So yeah, I always recommend going in through the army, infantry. I'm still heavily biased towards that. That will help, my opinion, set people up to get greater exposure to what is required before going on to something like a selection course. So Yeah, appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for the questions. What'd you say? Cool as Marco. What was that for? Oh, that was after your other question. Did you ever partake? Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right, peeps. I can see that there's still a handful of people on the live. I don't know that anybody's got any questions or anything else. I don't think there is. There's nothing else come through. I think people may have just been listening in. Drawn by Daniel. To be fair, on being young, I remember fronting an army recruiting stand at 13 saying I wanted to join and ended up doing that. When I was 17 in 1989, fortunately, they were nice to me. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I like when I was 14, I knew I wanted to join the regiment. It wasn't until I was 17 still going through the recruitment process and going to the New Zealand or going to the Gisborne Army Hall on the corner of Stout Street, and I forget the other road or street, going there and meeting with the recruit sergeant at the time. Yeah, like, sorry, in terms of what I was talking about, what age did I say? 7 or 12 or something? Yeah, I just think you got plenty of time. Like, if you're still feeling that way in a few years, my channel's still going to be around. Well, as far as I know, unless YouTube blocks it. So if I do get if I do get blocked or copyright struck or cancelled or whatever, well, then I'll just have to start another channel. And so, maybe people will find me again later on if that happens. Hopefully, it doesn't happen, but who knows? Maybe after this live reaction, Andrew Hastie and some other cronies might put in some work to have my channel blocked. I doubt it, but that would be funny if that did happen. Like, it's not going to stop me from putting up another channel or going again. And I suppose just on that, there's been a few videos lately. Some of those will probably be a little bit more regular, just in and around working things into existence. And maybe if I share this as a last piece of advice for the young fella, Cherry, and his cousin, 17, like, if you want something bad enough, no matter what it is, say you want to go to the regiment or the SAS, say you want to join the army, say you want to start a business, say you want to do YouTube or social media, like, you have to be willing to work that into existence. You're not going to, it's unlikely you're going to get any handouts. It's unlikely you're going to get any free passes or a free lunch or all that sort of stuff. You're going to have to work. It's going to be miserable some days and some times and some nights. There's going to be some late nights and days and all that sort of stuff. There's going to be haters. There's going to be doubters. There's going to be detractors from your path, your journey, your mission, your objective of what it is that you want to do. And your drive towards working towards that has to be stronger than anything else. That's been my experience anyway. If it isn't, it can be a bit easier, not guaranteed, but it can be a bit easier for people to or for you to be discouraged and for you to drop by the wayside and let that go. And then, hello, next minute, blinking 5, 10, 15 years goes by, and you think, man, if only I started that, or if only I followed through, I would be 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead of where I was 5, 10, 15 years ago, if that makes sense. So whatever it is, like, just work that thing into existence. Yeah, there's plenty of people out there that talk about working smarter, not harder. And that's probably true in a lot of things. But also, I don't think there's anything wrong with working hard for what it is that you're after. Some people there's a lot of people that have been extremely successful by just purely working hard, and then they get to a stage whereby they can then work a bit smarter, more efficient, whereby they can then and to have resources to have other people do certain things for them or take things on and get after it and work hard each day. Turn up every day, be as consistent as you can, be as disciplined as you can. It's cold in the mornings, don't want to get up and train, want to stay in the nice warm bed, but want to lose weight or want to get stronger or want to look a certain way. Well, it's not going to happen staying rugged up in the bed. It's not going to happen hiding away or turning away when you see the gym equipment, or not going for that run or that walk or that bike or that whatever it is that you said that you're going to do. It's not going to happen by, oh, I'll just eat this burger today and I'll start eating healthy tomorrow. Like, it starts as soon as you commit to making the decision to follow through on those things. So work it into existence, man. Put in the time, effort, and energy, make the sacrifices, and as always, good things will happen. So that'll be a reoccurring sort of shorts message on some of my videos coming up, just in terms of some of the conversations that I have with people, some of those reflections that I have from time to time as well. And some of that on the back end of some, dare I say, some miserable and challenging days sometimes. But I think it's good to still post those, because I think by and large, a lot of the content that I've posted, is usually, well, I am usually in a good space. And I usually look to try to make sure I'm in a good space before I do any recording or posting. But I think it's good to share and or potentially post some stuff whereby I might not be as in a good a space as I might have liked prior to doing that. So it's just, yeah, anyway, that's what's been going on in my head anyway. And so I'll be posting some of that stuff as we go. Persistence and effort. Yeah, 100%, persistence and effort. All right. Thanks very much once again, everybody. Look after yourselves. Have a great evening, and have an even better week ahead. Congrats to the All Blacks. Unlucky to the Australians. They were ahead at half time, and then I don't know what happened in the second half. I haven't watched the highlights of that because I was actually hoping Australia would win. But who else? I think England thumped Fiji, I think. And South Africa had another dominant win. I think they played Scotland. I don't know what's up with that Scotland uniform, man. That looks pretty hideous, that purple, pinkish, whatever colour it is. Like, I prefer them just in their normal dark blue colours. But anyway, that's on the Nations Cup. Nothing to do with this live, but I thought I'd just throw that in there. So take care, peeps, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care and good Sunday to all. Cheers, drawn by Daniel. All right, stop there.